War Machine is a 2017 satirical war film starring Brad Pitt and directed by David Michôd about successful, charismatic 4-star US General Glenn McMahon, who is recruited to command NATO forces in Afghanistan to bring victory to America in the war, and he leaps into action like the rock star he is. My understanding of the movie, I think, was greatly helped by the fact that the same day I watched War Machine, in fact about 20 minutes before I started watching it, I had just finished director Michôd's next movie, 2019's The King. Both films are remarkably similar in structure, and Michôd considers the two films to be part of something of an unconnected trilogy, the other movie being The Rover, about delusional men coming to realize the error of their ways. McMahon sees himself as someone who will get the job done. Previous men hired and fired from the role that he is currently doing have failed to implement their strategies correctly. They failed to win over the people in Afghanistan and successfully defend them against terrorist forces. But this time will be different, because he is in charge. The movie is narrated by Sean Power, a Rolling Stones journalist that accompanies McMahon and his team on the escapade, who instead of getting caught up in the idealization and adoration McMahon's men have for him, as they drink their way through European parties and make vague, speculative plans to win battles against the enemy, and instead pretty much calls out the general and his team for being the latest in a long line of ineffective methods to win the war in Afghanistan, an endeavour that has used up so much time, money, men and collateral damage that there is an overwhelming sentiment as to what exactly is the point of this war, and what exactly are we hoping to achieve. How do you fight Al-Qaeda when many of them are disgruntled average folk who want your soldiers to stop killing them, and by killing them, you only make more people disgruntled and join these insurgent groups? And that's pretty much, it seems, what the film is about and is ultimately trying to say. I didn't think the film was that strong, to be honest. I pretty much agree with the things it has to say about American imperialism and entitlement, the very much anti-war sentiment about the Afghanistan war the film has, the less than heroic intentions and less than competent abilities of the invasion, and the illusions of grandeur and exploitative nature of the Anglosphere in regards to the Middle East. However, and this might come as a shock to many film audiences today, but just because you agree with the film's politics does not mean you have to like the film itself. War Machine was kind of boring, really. It felt flat, it didn't have a lot of direction. It felt like he wanted to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of farcical slapstick, a little bit of intellectual satire, a little bit of anti-war commentary, a bit of deadpan humour. But because it just dibbles and dabbles here, there is no momentum and the tone is all over the place, and it fails to come away as something strong and competent, much like the main character, funnily enough. It's probably best summarised by Brad Pitt's bizarre performance. Maybe he was tired and needed a break from playing military leaders, but he came off as a weak caricature from his roles in Inglourious Basterds and Fury. He keeps making this weird face, and seems like he isn't all that with it and doesn't quite understand what everyone else in the room is talking about, like he's mentally challenged or a child in a man's body or something. I read somewhere someone describing his performance as a stroke victim doing an impersonation of George Clooney, and it's remarkable how accurate that is. When you first see him, he looks like he's going for something over the top and Looney Tunes-esque, and maybe if the performance itself was stronger it could have worked, as in say a larger-than-life centerpiece character that the entire film is built around. But the performance is at such odds with the way everyone else in the movie acts, and it gets even weirder when Pitt still does the face and the accent during the film's more serious and somber scenes. I feel like there was potential for a really good movie here, and in fact when you do some research into the stuff the film is based on, the topic is really interesting. It seems to have been made with good intentions, and it was a good idea, and the movie is a lot more honest about the American invasion of Afghanistan than most of the jigonistic gung-ho films that have been coming out over the past 20 years. But unfortunately, for the most part, the movie is a misfire, because nobody seems to be on the same page. The tone is all over the place, and the director seemingly failed to hammer down just what kind of film he wanted to make. I give it a 6 out of 10.